Hello 7 citizens, Black here from CAsaBLACk Gaming, and today's roadmap look is going to be a little different because there were not any new changes outside of the release few additions, which I will touch on briefly before diving into a huge list of over 30 various features or items that have been completed on the roadmap since March, but have not yet made it into the PU, but that we could possibly see for 320. Now remember that I not only track the mentioned things that they share in their little announcements every 2 weeks, but I also track all of the changes that take place on the roadmap that are not discussed, which means we can get a better overall sense of how things are going and what we can expect to actually be completed and some idea of a time frame. Now, before we get into this look at all of the features, I want to first ask that if you enjoy my content and find it useful, that you please like, subscribe, and comment on this video, and also just join my Discord where me and others are there to help new players with questions and also just to talk about our favorite ships or theories on what's coming or why things were delayed. We'd love to have you, and so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this roadmap deep dive for July 12th. All right, so first up quickly is the release view, and they added the Seraphim station, which takes over for Port Olisar when 320 launches, and it's now marked as committed. The new Orison platforms, which will have more missions, are still tentative, but they're added. Arena Commander experimental game modes, which is where we will see things like master modes and more for testing purposes, is also there as committed. New salvage contracts cover up where you scrape away the evidence is also committed. The Miscull C and wheeled vehicle handling improvements have all been marked as committed, which adds more certainty to what we can expect with 320, and that pretty much wraps up what CIG gave us in terms of this week's roadmap. But this video is just getting warmed up in terms of more possibilities we can expect, so let's go ahead and move on to this next section. Okay, so here are features both big and small that are showing completed on the roadmap, some of them for a few months now, but they have not yet made it into the PU for whatever reason. Now, some of those reasons are that they could be waiting on a team to be free to do more planned work on them, or they could be tied to another feature that is not yet complete and needing to hold off on until then. The roadmap can be a very fickle thing, and so I don't want to raise false hope here that there are 30 additional features or items that will definitely be in 320. But until we hear otherwise, they are just sitting there looking pretty in a corner all alone, and so it would be really cool to see some of these, maybe even half, appear in 320. Now, I will go over each one and share what teams have completed the work, and I do try to only include those that look like they could possibly really be done, so we'll see how it goes. Now keep in mind too that some of these are smaller features and not big ticket glossy features, which in many cases can truly be one of those hidden gem features like we got earlier when we were able to move all inventory items, which was something I'm still happy about all these months later. If anything, just use this as an informative tool to be aware of what's still out there and what's coming and build your hype accordingly. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, this is an interesting one because it deals with various character statuses. So think of a status as the condition of your character, whether that be hungry, thirsty, dead, incapped, etc. The Tier 2 version of this, which shows it was completed by the actor feature team, which has been working on actor features since March with things like ledge grabbing, EVA, but the description also mentions hygiene, DNA integrity, multiple bites, cybernetic limbs, and cloning. Radiation was also mentioned on a monthly report recently, so we might see more status effects and thus I think consumables possibly starting in 320. All right, so the work for better ship handling and Atmo began last August and continued into May by the vehicle feature team. Now, this is a feature that might roll out with the new master mode ship changes that we're going to see in Arena Commander for the time being, but should make its way into the PU once master modes gets the full okay to come over, or it could just show up on its own in 320. It's on this list regardless. So this feature is going to make ground combat so much more interesting and will affect everything from bunkers to derelict outposts to wreck sites. As of right now, you can just roll up on enemies in a ground vehicle and they don't really target your ground vehicle, but with this feature, which just ended last week as in July, that will all change as NPCs will soon be able to target those vehicles from either the air or those that are patrolling the ground. The AI tech and features team just finished this work and it's possible it could make its way into 320, which will continue to evolve FPS combat in new and exciting ways. Alright, so I'll be including a few of these UI changes in this video because they have either been done for months or just finished and have been sitting there. Now there are a few reasons why these updates have not gone into the PU yet. Many of them are also for Squadron 42 and so they might still be testing them over there, which means any of these features could go right back to a team to be worked on or changed as they see need. Another reason could be that they want to roll all of the UI changes together in one solid patch, which makes sense because some of these go hand in hand with each other, like the Moby Glass and mission screens, yet we're part of 2 or more different roadmap deliverables. Now I kind of think they're saving them all to roll out together with a 4.0 release because what better way to hit a major update patch number than to also include a whole bunch of UI changes that will redefine how the game looks and make it shiny, so 4.0 seems like the most logical release date for these. However, since they're showing complete, they are on our 320 watch list because who knows, maybe they will toss one or more up in this or the next patch. More cave options have been showing as completed since April, but have yet to show up in the game, so I think there's a pretty good chance we will see them in 320. However, there has not been any movement from the mission features team on this deliverable, so we might just get more empty caves with no missions attached to them yet, which is kind of a bummer and why many people are not really flocking to them on a daily basis. Cutting Tier 2 finished at the end of June. Now I don't think this will be in 320, but wanted to add it to the watch list anyway. The weapons feature team worked on this from September of 2022 until the end of last month in June, and it's possible we could see some functional mission utilizing this need. But until vehicle munching finishes, which is not scheduled until December now, I do not think we're going to see it, but I could be wrong. More Derelicts finished the 3rd week of May. 5 teams have worked on these at various times since 2021, with visual effects finishing up their work in May, so we might get some more spread around Stanton, which is always good to see. Alright, so if we get this first ammunition feature, Disarray Ammunition, in game for 320, then we might just see quite a few changes for ammo and weapons overall because there are 8 different features or deliverables that all show complete as of now. There's this one I just mentioned. Then there's Distortion Propagation, which will change how distortion weapons hit ships and the damage and how it spreads. There's Flak Ammunition. There's FPS Devices, which will cause weapons to overheat or malfunction depending on the use. There is also Incendiary Ammunition, which can cause damage over time or put things on fire. And there's News on Fire I will touch on in a moment as well. Plasma Ammunition was also completed, adding more damage over time to players and vehicles. Seated Item Handling is another that will change how we can interact with weapons by allowing someone on the back or in a side seat to also be able to shoot while seated, which is going to be awesome, especially when AI can detect more vehicles. Weapons misfire with wear and tear goes hand in hand with those FPS device changes I mentioned a second ago, which will cause those malfunctions if you do not keep your weapons maintained. All in all, there are some very huge weapons and weapon handling changes that will surely add spice to both PvE and PvP on the ground and in space. Alright, there are actually 4 different outfits, including the Duster faction one, that all show completed. Now, some or all of these might not make it into 320 because they could be for events, or they could be for Pyro, or just not quite finished yet and will be something they go back to later. The outfits and clothing for the Dusters, Frontier Clothing, Headhunters faction, and Rough and Ready faction have been discussed on the last few monthly reports, so work has been progressing, and so until we see more added, we can keep these on the watch list for 320 and probably beyond. Alrighty, I just mentioned fire a moment ago, and fire hazards have been marked as done with no more work added as of now. Now, this fire feature is not specific, so I'm not sure if it's in regards to some of those new weapons or ships with the resource management features, or if the fire extinguishers, which I believe have been completed for more than a year now, will be of use here. But regardless, some kind of fire work has been completed, and so I think it's a good idea to be on the lookout for more fire to be added into the game for any update now. Now, my guess on this one is that the Greycat Salvage standalone tool would come with the cutting feature, which we discussed earlier in this video, which would be with vehicle munching. However, it finished in early June, and so perhaps we might get it to aid in the removal of larger ship components, or the ability to scrape more holes with handheld methods, which would be cool for players who do not yet have a salvaging vehicle. It's on the watch list now regardless, so I feel like it's imminent with the next patch or two. Space Tomato asked me about hacking, and due to some of the leaks we have been seeing recently, I think we might get some early hacking action with 320. We might not get a lot or the full-blown mechanic, but unless the leaks were just showing the files being added into the system and not going live yet, I think there could be some hacking coming at the very least with the new data heist missions. We could even see more form of hacking with the Orison platforms if they make it in, so we'll just see what the 12 teams who have been working on this off and on and whose work shows complete have been up to, and if the feature is finally ready. Now, this is another UI feature that I think will not come just yet, as I mentioned earlier, but it does show complete, which pretty much almost makes every UI feature that was on the roadmap done or close to being done, unless something just needs to go back in and be baked a little bit longer. This one is huge on my wanted upgrade features list though, and I look forward to it. So the #1 most anticipated feature from any Star Citizen player has been done since the first week of May. Now, when will we see the janitor in action? Will it be 320? Or is Chris Roberts saving it as some grand finale, one more thing type of feature to show off at CitizenCon, kind of similar to what Steve Jobs used to do? My money is on 320. Alright, so this is a feature that seems pretty specific and which I'm not expecting to see come into the game unless it has a specific purpose, like for a mission or maybe as some part of the resource management system. It might be used for cargo when the freight elevators make their way into the game, who knows. All I know is it's been done since the second week of June, and so let's put it on the watch list for 320 just in case it shows up. Alright, so there are 3 player interaction experiences that are now all showing completed. Those 3 items are Henson interactions, visor HUD, and helmet improvements, and physical machine interactions. These could be tied in with the overall UI changes I feel will come with 4.0, but they are done and just sitting there, so it's possible they could be released on their own, so we'll just see. Alright, so we need NPCs to go prone, and in order to do things like more bounty hunting, live capturing, or NPC medical missions or whatever, this feature has been done since March by the actor feature and tech teams, and there's been some leaks suggesting some different actor statuses are possibly coming with 320, so I'm hopeful for at least part of this to come online. So the quantum travel experience sounds kind of like they are redoing the visuals, which isn't bad, and of course I welcome them to get better, but this update, which was completed in March by 5 different teams and has not shown more work since then, is so much more than just updated visuals. Some of it goes hand in hand with Master Mode, which to me says it's at least 2 or 3 updates away, but since it's done, and since maybe parts of it could appear beforehand, I will add it here. But odds are it ties in with the new map rework because it's setting coordinates and even spooling up, so my guess is the UI and quantum features will all come in together, but we're still watching. Having our characters slide will be very cool, and this work was finished in mid-June by the actor feature team. This should make FPS combat more exciting and give options to players. Now, will NPCs also be able to slide? Because we might see some shenanigans if they can. Will 320 be out before the summer ends? My guess is an August-September rollout, probably September, in which case it's still warm enough to go swimming, and since the actor feature and tech teams finished swimming Tier 0 in June, I think we could see this pop up in that next update as a smaller yet still cool feature. Sadly, the SRV is not scheduled to arrive in 320 despite the fact that it has appeared to be completed since like March. Now I know they are still testing its towing capabilities, so that might not make it in time for 320, but vehicle tractor beams could still make it in, if only on a few ships so we can test them out. The Hull C, which is confirmed for 320, showed off that it has tractor beams in the Hull C on the Inside Star Citizen video, and even though we did not see them in action, I think it's a safe bet that they might make it in for 320 for those few ships. We'll see. All right, and so that's going to do it for this possible look at what could make it into 320. Now, we still do not know yet what updates the rest of the year after 320 will bring. I suspect we will see a 321, which could be the place we see some of these items pop up if they don't make it into 320. I am definitely not someone who thinks everything on this list will be in 320, but just sharing what's possible from the information that we have. Let me know which of these items you believe will or will not be in the update. There's no hard feelings if you think I'm a loon or way off base here. I honestly do not try to provoke hype just for views and give my honest thoughts on what I think could be possible. Anyway, remember to be kind to your fellow gamer, dream big even if you end up failing, at least you had a vision, and stay positive citizens.